title I put, entrepreneur, airline rated pilot, all around very smart guy. Good guy too. Bruce Sidlinger joins us. We'll hit on the current events today. I did put commercially rated pilot. And every time I do that, Bruce gets mad at me because isn't that what that is? What's the difference?
I don't know how to pound it into your head that I have an airline rating, not a commercial rating.
I'm not a smart man. I mean, seriously, Bruce, you know this by now. How many times you been on the show? You haven't been on a lot this year.
No, I took a vacation. I took quite a vacation from
radio and politics.
From politics. I mean,
Why? Because we of course stay in touch and we talk all the time outside of radio and all that. But why get back into it? I mean, because you were pretty dour. Is that a word? Dire. You're pretty down.
Dour would be perfect.
You were pretty down on the state of affairs of everything, and you did a piece about we broke everything. Right, a synopsis on the current situation, and you pretty much were like, I feel like it's hopeless, and you kind of ducked out for a while.
I did feel like it was hopeless, and also, actually though, there's a tiny chance it's still hopeless. Do you remember?
Just a tiny chance.
Do you remember in World War II?
I don't. I was not born.
In World War II, the Chinese and the Japanese had this whole separate thing going on. It was in Manchuria, and it was from 37 to 45.
Went on for a long time,
and
I would argue even before that.
Yeah,
it was going, but yeah.
And so anyway, that at the end of that, the Chinese were losing, and that is where we get the term scorched earth. Because they destroyed everything in the retreat, and that's where that term came from. And so,
raping of Nanking. I mean, there's so many different.
But the scorched earth specifically was just no possible military use for what's left, no possible use. And as I was, I didn't think in advance about the show at all, but I happened to tune in the radio.
I don't either.
Driving over. I happened to tune the radio driving over, and on my Facebook, I post over and over again. I say, well, we may still have World War III. It's like somebody was talking to me last night about the climate crisis, and I said, as I've said a million times, if the climate turns out to be a thing, I mean, the science, I have a little bit of distrust about the science because they went back and revised the historical temperature figures to correct for like instrumentation errors, stuff like that. Anybody that I now feel like everybody has a venal interest, all the scientists, all the pharmaceutical companies, all the politicians, obviously, any politician that leaves office with more money than they came in with has a venal interest. I feel like everybody's on the take, and you can't trust much. But anyway, I've been posting a lot about World War III, and it came up last night because somebody talked about the climate crisis, and I said, look, as I've said a million times over on the radio, first of all, there's always an existential crisis. You can't get me excited about this one.
Yeah.
And secondly, this is what engineers are for. As soon as it manifests, we'll fix it. I mean, we have solved so many harder problems. Even if the sea level came up 10 feet and not a few inches, we've solved much more difficult problems.
What's the country in Scandinavia that's largely under sea level?
Yeah. Like Holland?
Netherlands, Denmark,
right.
Holland. Yeah, okay. And then New Orleans, I mean, that's had levees and systems forever. So even if you believe that, so your point is scientists and civilization in general will cure these things.
Well, and it's more likely engineers, not so much scientists, but it's the engineers because that's when, especially if we're going to have like a no nonsense civil engineering infrastructure, no nonsense federal government, then the engineers can solve it.
Yeah, come up with a solution for it.
Right.
Whereas, and I think I know where you're going with this.
But I'm going to talk about World War III.
Yeah. Whereas, what does your climate crisis look like if Russia and U.S. launch a bunch of nuclear nuclear missiles?
And so there's in general, the complete lack of seriousness. Remember, I did a radio show and I said nothing of import nothing positive has happened since 1969. Well, I got into it on Facebook with a friend the other night.
But what about the internet? What about
right? And
but you make a good point though, because when I go and use my appliances, I'm just talking appliances, just general life items. generally they're all the same. The toaster, actually, it's probably worse.
Minor
my wife just had to
optimizations.
run down to the big box store to get a crock pot because the one she got 2 years ago broke. It had all the, chips in it and everything and the, time settings and all this crap you never use. And that stuff never used to break after 2 years. She went and bought the one with the high, medium, low, warm, or whatever. And she's like, I just need basic.
I always go to a restaurant supply or like Web Restaurant Supply, and I order an institutional microwave that is for convenience stores.
I want the dial one like they used to have at the
Those
Circle
never
K
fail.
to heat up
The
your
institutional
Cheese Whiz. Yeah.
Anyway, but yes, the point is there's a complete lack of seriousness and a complete lack of discipline, and that's fine except for Russia versus United States versus Red China. That and this is the point where I've always said with the Ukraine war, I'm kind of on the fence because on one hand, the best thing to do would have been to be belligerent, to be bold and unpredictable like Trump would have been, because then Putin would not have done the incursion. Do you remember when Joe Biden, very similar to what Barack Obama did, I think, in Syria, where he drew a red line? Well, Joe Biden said, if Russia crosses over into Ukraine, there'll be consequences. But then he immediately revised that by saying, unless it's a small incursion, like Joe Biden said, unless it's a small incursion.
I take it back. But this is madness now. So in just the past couple of days, Bruce, we saw President Biden or somebody. I don't think he's doing this because I don't think he has the marbles to actually do
Although
this.
I do think he's completely energized by
Trump winning.
I won't say by Trump winning, but by Kamala losing.
Yeah, I think he voted for Trump.
I think he's probably running at peak right now. He's probably saying he probably feels he's
got a second win,
as newly optimistic as I do.
He's got a second win.
Right.
Well, let me ask you this though. Because here we had Biden allow the use of U.S. long-term or long-range missiles to be fired from Ukraine by the Ukrainians, obviously trained by us. Who else? I mean, it's not like they know how to do this stuff. And as soon as he allowed that, they did it. And Russia came out and said, red line, we can respond with nuclear weapons. If you're doing this, especially if we think a NATO country is behind us, which, there are missiles. So then Britain follows up. They do the same thing with allow their missiles. And so what is last night, Putin launched ICBMs.
The hypersonic medium-range missile.
What is that? What did he launch last night?
He launched a hypersonic medium-range missile and a strategic missile that could deliver a nuclear payload. And
it did not have that on it.
It did not have that on it, but the point is anyway, the point, to go back to something I was starting to say earlier, when the Ukraine intervention was first proposed, I said, well, on one hand, we shouldn't go in there because they're not NATO. It's not really our thing. On the other hand, we really want to nip this in the bud and not have an expansionist Russia. But the only way to do that was before it happened. Now, the concern now is that we have a country that ultimately doesn't have to lose a war with Ukraine. Ukraine is a non-nuclear power. Russia is a nuclear power. Putin is old. Putin doesn't really abide by societal norms completely.
Yeah.
And if I was Putin, I would probably be giving serious thought to tactical nukes. Why? I wouldn't let Ukraine, if I thought, well, I'll tell you what, the first Ukraine weapon that gets anywhere near Moscow, anywhere near the Kremlin.
Yeah, this was suicide.
I think that's a tactical. I think that's the day tactical nukes.
I would hope our advisors would be there saying, here's what you can hit. But he obviously sent his ICBMs over to send a message that, hey, reminder maybe.
He sent essentially a dummy one over. I mean, a minor impact just to say,
by the way, we've got a lot of these things.
Right.
What are you doing? And what are we doing,
and
Bruce?
Apparently we don't have hypersonic unless our military has been continuing to operate at the pace they did in my favorite year, 1969, and we've got a bunch of secret super weapons, which I greatly doubt, then I think we're actually behind on this hypersonic
you'd have
thing.
to test them. You'd have to test them, right?
I think we're behind on the hypersonic
The scary thing about last night is, so Putin launches these things, and our systems detect it almost instantly from what I've read. And they also can pretty quickly detect the trajectory, where they're going to hit. But what if they made a mistake? And what if they detected, I don't know how many missiles Russia launched last night, but what if there's just a mistake made and then it runs up the chain to, because I'm sure Biden was woken up or something, prodded along. Then all of a sudden, hey, we got to make a decision. We think these are coming for you name it. And the guy can't think that quick. And here we are just 2 months from Trump taking office, where I think a lot of this gets resolved if we can just make it through this period.
Right. Hence the scorched earth. I
mean,
it looks
what are
like
they doing?
It looks like the left is just going to destroy everything that they possibly can.
But I don't get that. I don't get that because
during the lame duck period,
they have kids, they have grandkids. Do they think it's just a game?
They don't.
And they can. I mean, here's the deal.
Okay, you talked about kids.
Yeah, here's the deal. I'm looking at Congress right now, Bruce, and one of their biggest concerns is they're bickering about little things, and I don't really hear much from them. Isn't there some kind of power they have to say, hey, wait a second, what are we doing? Shouldn't this stuff run through Congress? We're talking World War III here.
I think the president is uniquely able to start wars in the United States. They have to get to Congress like 60 days later,
which is 60 days too late. Right. Which is 6 minutes too late.
But now there may be a difference between the formalisms and the reality. Like I wouldn't be surprised if Putin just decided to go nuclear. The question is, would the Kremlin go along with him? And if they woke Biden up at 3 a.m. and he said, yes, a full retaliatory strike on Russia, which he would never do, he'd be much more likely to say, we'll just take the hit and better red than dead kind of thing, right? I think that would be the...
Yeah, I think that Putin's, he's not a good guy, obviously.
But the real question is, would either of the armies go along with...
No, I hear you on that, but how is the system set up, though? That's the problem, is how much in the loop are they on a lot of these things?
Well, you don't really have just a button. I mean, Rob would know a lot more about this, but you don't really have just a button. There has to be people...
but the decision process has to go through the president.
Right. The Pentagon, I feel like the Joint Chiefs of Staff has an implicit veto power.
I would hope in this case, but here's the deal. Putin's not a good guy. But Putin is a smart person. He's also a survivor. He's been doing this for a long time. My guess is he knows he gets to Trump, and when Trump gets in, and he knows there's going to be a sit down between him and Zelensky and Trump.
He'll get
Crimea, and he also knows he's going to get that eastern part, which is what should have happened a long time ago, which is everything that most intelligent people predicted would happen. The people
because culture matters, and those people. The land that Putin is hoping to recover at this point are people that are culturally Russian.
Yeah. Yeah. And what's the gain here? And how many dead people are there in Ukraine now? How many guys are, just everybody's been killed, but they don't have any, I'm surprised they have any male bodies left to even fight this.
This is why America needs to be the shining city on the hill. I've explained this so many times to my friends and I finally just get exhausted and refer them to a radio show, but,
hopefully mine.
I probably have a cough button that I forgot to push.
Yeah, you got a cough button.
Anyway,
people would like to hear your cough as well. I just hope that we get to that 2 months though, Bruce, and that they're able to sit down and negotiate this. I want to move on to a couple other things.
Let's do other stuff.
Yeah, let's do that. And hey, if anyone wants to comment in the podcast on X, on YouTube, or send a good old fashioned email, you can do that. talkwithjeff@icloud.com, or like I said, comment right within the podcast. You can also please follow me back real quick though, because we've got Thanksgiving coming up. It's like a week away. You believe that?
I'm doing the thing I always do, which is the buffet at Little America.
I'm doing the thing I always do and eat Angela's turkey, which I just got to carve it. That's it. Carve it and eat it. But if you're looking for, because Christmas is going to be right around the corner, if you're looking for a great gift idea, Timberline Firearms and Training, they are the best out there. And if you have a gun enthusiast, one of your loved ones, or you want to just give this to your office folks that, people that work for you, people you work with, you can get a gift card from Timberline Firearms and Training. And then they can go and get training. We're talking situations like low light, when you get woken up in the middle of the night, AR-15 training, handgun training, you're a beginner, you're an expert, all points in between. Timberline Firearms and Training, they can get you up to that next level. They're outside of Flagstaff, so you take 89 North. They're about 5 minutes north of the Flagstaff Mall. Call them up, book one of their training classes, or just get a great gift card. You can buy safes, accessories, firearms, ammunition, and did I mention they have the indoor shooting range out there, right?
They let me
awesome.
Rob let me shoot shoot my
Studio
50
Auto?
caliber pistol.
Nice.
There.
So you can do that.
Because he's got the heavy metal, the super heavy metal that nobody else has.
They got the full auto too. That's a fun, like
I haven't done
Christmas
that.
party idea. Yeah. So anyway, call them up 928-526-7900. That's 928-526-7900 or go to timberlinefirearms.us. Back to, and Bruce Sidlinger's here with me, what you're talking about with the environmentalists. I think this movement's kind of peaking out. I think that you got
Well, Kamala made it through the entire campaign without mentioning climate once.
Exactly. So I think that, like everything, like I've said for years on this program, these things kind of come in peaks and they last 10, 15, 20 years, whatever the mania is at the time. And I think the millennials are kind of a lost cause. And they were kind of the peak of this and the most nutty about this, in my opinion, the millennials. Then the Gen Z started kind of saying, well, every generation wants to be a little different, right? And rebel against maybe what the last one was doing. I think the Gen Zers have come in and said, what the heck were you guys talking about? I don't know about this stuff. You've been saying this is going to happen for a really long time. You talk about nuclear war, that'd be real devastating. But you've got the money that's shoveling in right now, Bruce, that I think people should be aware of, because I've seen a lot of grants going out last minute, final days of the Biden administration. Millions and millions of dollars are going out for all these little pet projects. Okay. The ones I saw were, the ones that I saw were millions, here in Arizona, at least. I got one here that's for buses, and this stuff drives me crazy. So there was, let me get to it here.
And I've got it. When you get to talk about buses, I've just got to do the Elon solution to everything.
Yeah, this is going to go into
solution to everything.
This is going to go into the what's that called? The Office of Government
But even before
Efficiency.
that, no,
whatever.
I really want to talk about Elon technology.
Okay, so check this out. I told you recently about, Grand Canyon Railway, which is a cool railroad, and I like those guys. It's good stuff up there. It's outside Williams, but they got a grant for millions to do an electric train. Battery train. And I'm just like, oh, come on. Right. So then I see this one.
That's especially ridiculous for a nostalgia train. I mean, that's even sillier.
I want to, have you ever been on the train in, what is that? The Durango Silverton run?
Yeah, of course. Because I almost bought that airport. It runs right beside an airport.
That would have been nice. They have that coal power. It's coal, right? Coal fired train. It's awesome. And if you sit outside, you come back and you're full of soot and everything. It's like, maybe it's not so awesome, but it's just really cool to see that. I could imagine the U.S. back in the day when those steam engines were running.
It's amazing.
Across, and you look at the size of it and just the industrial look of it. But anyway, so they got the train, the battery train up there. But now NAU, Northern Arizona University, here's an article from the NAU Review from November 18th, 24. NAU shuttles are going green. So talking about these buses, right? These buses that are everywhere that are supposed to, the diesel buses were supposed to fix all the pollution and the traffic and all that, right? So they got a grant, one of just, and this is what they note, one of just 3 universities nationwide to receive $991,772. Got that right? $1 million. Let's go with $1 million.
Okay.
From the U.S. Environmental Protection Agency Diesel Emissions Reduction Act National Grants Program. Now, I'd like to know, is there a department that Elon Musk can recommend to Trump to get rid of that just thinks of names?
You're right.
Right? This is the U.S. Environmental Protection Agency Diesel Emissions Reduction Act National Grants Program. Awarded about $1 million for NAU to get 2 buses. The grant covers 45% of the cost of replacing 2 2008 diesel transit buses with battery electric buses and acquiring and installing high-speed charging infrastructure.
So I got a couple of comments. First of all,
I'll read more. Go ahead.
Notice that bus is a 2008 bus, right?
Yes.
And so it made it to 15 years old. No electric vehicle makes it past 10 years. Really, 8 years. Electric vehicles are inherently they just expire. They're not worth repairing, and so all of these schools that like electrified fleets, they've never faced a crisis before where next year the fleet expires. Right, next year
you got to change the batteries.
Right,
it's like the battery replacement's coming,
but also just software support and everything. There's just these cloud enabled vehicles. They just go away on the 10th year. Right, so. So that's bad. But can I want to
or
do
nobody wants them because they know the end of life.
Right.
It's
all end of life.
Well, let me ask you this about the 2008 buses that they're getting rid of. Those with the diesel engine, they should still be fine. You should be able to rebuild that engine or do whatever.
Oh yeah, diesels are forever.
Yeah. So here's my question, NEU and the environmentalists and the greenies. What happens to those two buses? Right.
No, it's all.
If you actually care about the environment and you're like, we got to get rid of these two buses because they're just spewing out diesel fumes and and I'll get to the rest of the article. It's unsafe and it's causing climate change and all this. So are you scrapping the bus? Are you turning it into a dorm or something?
In California, they drilled through the engine blocks of those cash for clunkers to make sure they never ran again.
Okay.
I imagine these buses will just go to the next town, hopefully the next town downwind and not the next town upwind, or we've accomplished nothing. If they end up going to Williams, we've accomplished nothing. We'll still get all
drift this way. We're sending these. Sorry, everyone out in Winslow, Holbrook. We're sending the buses out to you.
They've got to go downwind.
It's got to go that way where the wind blows. No, but wouldn't it be important to put in this article what happens to those 2008 buses? Because they still have a value, I would imagine. And so are you getting rid of the buses? And if you are you selling them? Are they going to another city and spewing out old, they're getting older and
in
more
fact,
diesel fumes?
Even if we exported the buses to New Delhi, that we're still going to get, it's one set of air that we all breathe.
But by their, babbling for 2 decades now, it doesn't matter where that bus is.
Right.
It's all contributing to the end of the earth. So, okay, let's say they take the bus out and do what you were saying about California and drilling through it and doing whatever. And just recycling it, which is a load of crap anyway, because China's not taking most of this recycling anyway. What becomes of the old bus that's still good? This is kind of like the argument of we got to replace something because it's causing so much damage. So let's build another bus because the new bus is the same dang size. It's all the same. It has rubber tires. It has glass windows, metal, whatever, it has all the infrastructure. The only thing that's different is the drivetrain.
The details don't matter because it's not about the details. It's about political favoritism. The money that goes to, let me talk strategically for a minute about two things.
Please.
The first strategic thing I want to talk about is the Sidlinger theory of government size.
Okay.
The Sidlinger theory of government, if you've got an industry, let's say you've got Ford, and Ford has a lot of bloated departments and a lot of departments.
Yeah.
Still, there was at least initially a business case for setting up the department or a business case for hiring those people. Now, things get bloated and you need layoffs and a lot of companies, a lot of managers aren't good at firing people. A lot of CEOs aren't good at firing people. So you end up, it's easier to just put them under a stairwell than fire them. But
wait for attrition.
But there was originally a business theory to that. To how many people we need to get this many trucks built. The government doesn't think that way. The government says, what is the maximum amount of taxes that the people will allow us to collect? And then get that, right? We'll figure out what to do with it later. Do the maximum amount of taxation that the people will tolerate. And then additionally, what is the maximum amount of inflation that the people will tolerate? And we'll print that much more in deficit spending. And once that money's accumulated, at that point, whether it's buses or chargers or arts projects or the stupid roundabouts or the bike lanes or any of these government projects, it's really just, everybody takes a slice. Everybody gets a taste, right? Dips their beak. Remember that?
Wet my beak from The Godfather, right?
Everybody wets their beak on the way.
Yeah.
Nobody cares. It's just like those electric car chargers. Maybe they've got more online, but the last I looked, they had 7 or 8 online from $1 billion. But nobody cares because you can't get fired. It was never about the chargers. It was about that money going to donors and also. So my first theory, that's my theory of government size, is that it's just like my theory of unnecessary wars. My theory of unnecessary wars is we can do 2 wars at a time, and that's why we usually have 2 wars at a time. It was unjust what Russia did to Ukraine. There's all kinds of unjust things that countries are doing to each other all around the world.
No, it's a mess.
Now, so I don't think America should just intervene I don't think we should be world police to enforce fairness. Now, it might be that we need to be world police to prevent an expansionist Russia, but I would rather have spent my money getting ahead of them on hypersonic weapons, getting ahead of them on Reagan's Star Wars. If we had done Star Wars, we would have no concern about Russia. Because then Russia if we had done that, and incidentally,
it'd be like the big shield on Spaceballs.
Well, it would be like the Iron Dome.
Yeah.
The what do they call it? The Iron Dome.
Which they shot down how many Iranian rockets and missiles?
Yeah,
just recently. Seems like forever ago.
We could have had that, right? We could have had that. Everybody just laughed at Reagan and said that's a bunch of nonsense. And also they said, and even if it's not nonsense, it'd be destabilizing. But not having it is what's destabilizing. Anyway, but now let me just segue into my theory of how important Elon is. And when I was worried about politics up until the election, mm-hmm. I absolutely expected Elon to be in jail soon.
If Trump had not won.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, they're going after him.
Right.
They were going after him hardcore,
even now,
for sure.
even today, even yesterday, the European, the British Parliament, the members of Parliament have summoned Elon for an inquisition about whether Twitter played a part in the Southport riots. And so there are still people after Elon.
Probably best not to go.
Right. But
to Britain for many reasons.
But here's the thing about Elon. Let's just think about this. For climate, let's first of all take sea level rise, if it even is going to happen. One of the things Elon's doing is doing robots. And also, we're now allowed to, since the Bitcoin industry needed it, since the AI industry needed it, we're now allowed to have nuclear power again. Because remember, we're restarting 3 Mile Island just for AI, which means that now we can have nuclear power again. Because
nuclear's in again. Yeah.
It was in again for that dumb reason. But I
finally did watch China Syndrome.
Oh yeah,
I had never seen that like a week or two ago.
Jane found it was so hot, and you see, what I've always said is
But she became a nut.
Right.
Later,
I've always said that. She's been on a downward slide from Barbarella. You need to watch Barbarella.
Okay, all right. I'll try.
But I've always said that Jane Fonda inadvertently was the Earth's biggest climate criminal, because she was so hot and such a good actress in that movie, that she shut down all future nuclear. If we had had nuclear, then we would have nothing. None of the stuff that Al Gore was upset about would have happened. We would have had unlimited clean energy. That's because it would have been so good by now. We told the nuclear industry when it was at the Ford Model T stage, don't get any better. No more.
Stop.
Think how good it would have been. Anyway, so here's what Elon can do. Elon, he's an energy guy. That he does solar and batteries, but he can also do nuclear. He can do anything in that.
I don't think he's opposed to
in that realm, right?
Yeah.
Elon can give us unlimited energy, and also Elon can give us unlimited robots, because the key for robots is to get robots to the point of building other robots. If robots
whoa. I saw that though. It was a movie with Arnold Schwarzenegger. It was called The Terminator. If you do that, don't you get a little concerned?
I'm talking about essentially industrial robots.
Okay. They're connected like at the car plant.
They don't necessarily have to be AI.
Okay. All right.
But
I get a little scared when I hear
But the point is, here's the problem. The worst thing that could happen as far as climate change is New York is inundated. I've never seen that as a huge problem, because I said, well, it's not like we've been keeping the infrastructure any good in New York, or the subways are crumbling, the sewers are crumbling. It's all falling apart anyway. We haven't maintained the bridges. Probably the best thing to do would be to back up 20 miles and build it again.
Build a new one.
But it seems completely impossible.
But this ain't going to happen.
It seems completely impossible.
This ain't going to happen, Bruce.
But listen, it seems completely impossible to build a new one until you think about robots building robots with unlimited energy.
Yeah, but none of the stuff that they've been fear
mongering. But no, it's not going to. We're not going to
happen. It's so ridiculous.
But anyway, so the other point is that if whatever crisis you're imagining is readily solved by Elon Musk,
I hope so, and people like him. And
all of the crises you're imagining,
and that's why Trump tapped him to go in there and try to strike down the inefficiencies.
Well, and so that's a separate issue, right? So
can he actually do that?
Right, the Elon and Vivek Ramaswamy side project of the government inefficiency, and it's kind of a shame for Elon's technical mind to have to be diverted to that. But I'm glad Vivek is there to do the grunt work.
I don't see it that way, because this job, Bruce, is actually what President Trump has tasked Elon Musk with, and Vivek
I'm glad he's
Ramaswamy.
doing it.
I'm glad they're doing
But
it.
we just need to clone Elon about 1,000
No,
times.
I hear you. Yeah, but this is not actually a hard job. It'll be hard to implement, but
the decisions are easy.
You and
Just
I
like
could,
with me
you
with
and
the
I could
F-35.
go in there and rip
If
these
I
things
walked
apart.
in fact, I almost thought about volunteering. I've heard that they've done like a job description that says if you're willing to work 80 hours a week for no money.
Yeah.
Well, I wonder if I could write to somebody and say, here are my areas of expertise. And for example, just turn me loose on the F-35. I would fix that. I mean, there's stuff I know.
But that's what I'm saying. Picking out these inefficiencies and the waste in government is an easy job for a lot of people. The hard part is going to be getting it through.
It's a really cool thing
because he can't do it.
The three really important people are Elon and his mini me Vivek Ramaswamy and Trump who thinks at scale and can't be intimidated and will be a bulldozer running through the bureaucracy this time.
If they can, here's my concern. I'd be happy if they can cut anything, and Department of Education would be a good place to start. IRS would be another one. I see people questioning.
If he was as ruthless as Joe Biden was, he can cut it because Joe Biden did everything with executive orders.
Get rid of the Department of Education. You should get rid of the IRS, and we have to replace it with something.
Tariffs are a great alternative to income tax.
That's how the country worked originally. Was we ran on tariffs.
But also, income tax should. See, Elon understands, even though he hasn't mentioned it. I'm sure he has reached the exact same conclusion that I've reached decades ago about how government expands to absorb all available taxable revenue and all available inflation. Well, Elon's probably going to say, you know what? If a department has engaged in nonsense, every time we read about a department doing some nonsensical thing like sending 12 squad cars to, what was that? Who's that old guy, that old politician guy that they went to his house and arrested him?
Was it Giuliani or
no, the old guy. But anyway, whatever.
The guy that went to they do it time and time again.
Or
the dawn raid with the dogs.
Or 8 squad cars to get the squirrel.
Oh, wasn't that the most ridiculous thing? I mean, the squirrel.
What the automatic thing, which I think would really result in an immediate improvement of regulatory kindness, would be if Trump just says, every time you do that, the next day, half your people are gone because you just gave proof that you got time on your hands.
Yeah, and that you're a tyrant as well.
You're a tyrant, but you're way overfunded.
Back to what you said, though, Bruce, about the tariffs. We used to run on tariffs, and by we, I mean the federal government. The federal government also used to consume maybe 2%, 1%.
Well, I was going to say 2%. The right number is 2%. Yeah, 2%.
Not
because I told you
I'm not sure what the feds consume. I've seen between 30 and 40% of America's GDP is that spending.
I think it's a lot more because
you throw in the local
mandates,
and you throw in the local. Well,
compliance.
that's the thing. You throw in the local and state governments and federal government. Something like 50% of all economic activity in this country is now government. I think it's insane.
I think, like most American capitalists, I want everybody to win. I did this post on Facebook where I just said the night that Trump got to within 3 delegates,
I knew he was going to win.
I knew he was going to make it. I said, I'm so happy for my right-wing friends, but I'm also so happy for my left-wing friends because my heart has been broken for most of my life because I knew what they could have in terms of life. Mm-hmm. They could have a beautiful house. Only one person in the household would have to work. Either one, I don't care who works, but I mean, it's
how it used to be.
But they could have. There is no reason why we can't have Father Knows Best and Leave It to Beaver.
Except for socially, we've degenerated.
People don't realize that the government is taking all of their wealth and also. Now that the government has started to become really brutal, the worst thing, even beyond the poverty of like the former Soviet Union, is the 3 a.m. battering on the door.
Yeah,
and you went to the Gulag. Yeah. I still want everybody to read Solzhenitsyn's Gulag Archipelago because that explains what we were going to get. That's why I was so upset. I thought that
we were heading to that road.
I thought that you
and we still could be.
I thought you and I would be going to the Gulag.
Yeah, and we still could be. We have to be really careful here
Yes.
because look what they're doing right now. There's still 2 months left. Hang on one second, Bruce, because we got so much more to get to, including what hit today with Trump's Attorney General pick. I want to talk about that some more. I will loop back around this bus thing because I think this is important to talk about, because the greenies.
Oh, because I got to talk about pods. When we get back to, I want to talk about the pods that I've always wanted to talk about.
But I do want to thank my great sponsors. And they're the reason why we're able to stay on air and keep doing this show. So I hope that you'll go and support them. American Trailer Company. This is where I bought my dump trailer from last year. You seen this thing? This thing is great.
I don't know, but I love trailers. I've got so many trailers.
You could hook this up to your Tesla.
I'll get them to make me a equipment trailer for my Hummer and my Bobcat.
Yeah, you could hook it up to that. I use it all the time. American Trailer Company is a veteran-owned company. They also have a great deal for you. So actually, could you imagine a trailer? Like you have someone that's like, I wish I had that trailer. I wish I had a flatbed trailer, a utility trailer for my ATVs. And then it just shows up for Christmas, like it's in the driveway. That's a good idea. Go buy it. AmericanTrailerAZ.com.
Am I going to get a trailer from you?
Sure.
Okay.
Maybe. I have a couple old ones too.
No, I want an American trailer brand new.
AmericanTrailerAZ.com. They got their full inventory there. And if you mention the Jeff Orvich show, and you go in there, you buy a trailer, in stock trailer, 5% off. That can be very significant. And also, if you are in northern Arizona, up to 150 mile radius from Flagstaff, because they're actually out by Timberline Firearms and Training. They're like neighbors. So north on 89 outside Flagstaff, no city sales tax there, by the way. If you want to get it delivered though, you're maybe in Prescott, you're maybe in Sedona, who knows where, 150 mile radius, free delivery. So it's worth a trip out there. Check out their full inventory, or check it out at AmericanTrailerAZ.com. That's AmericanTrailerAZ.com. One more here. And Bruce, I think you know these guys at Route 66 Coin and Collectibles.
Yes.
Good guys.
Yes, my favorite. Remember, I did a whole, I was able to, with their assistance, I bought a house on an impulse in one day with gold coins.
Yes. And if you live in Bruce's world, you can buy a house on impulse.
In one
gold
day.
Coins.
and see, so what's amazing about them, they're completely trustworthy. They've been around forever. Yeah. And what's amazing.
I'll just let you do it.
Right. And what's amazing about them is that, people have some hesitation about physical gold because they're thinking, what if I need the money in a hurry? It's better to go to Bank of America and just go to the ATM. We did this in a day, a huge liquidation in a day.
Yeah, they have that capacity.
Yeah, they're amazing.
They also, Route 66 Coin and Collectibles has the capacity to ship this. If you're listening outside the state, they can ship one coin. They can ship a truckload. They also have a great deal right now when it comes to silver bullion. I really love silver. It takes up a little more room, but I really like silver. Silver bullion, coins and bars. Guaranteed nationwide at $1 per ounce less than any competitor. Why don't you call Route 66 Coin and Collectibles right now? Mention the show, and I'd appreciate you doing that. And they're going to take really good care of you. 928-527-0047. That's 928-527-0047. Or stop if you're coming through Flagstaff. They're right there on historic East Route 66, 1996 East Route 66 in Flagstaff. All right, so
so I got a thing.
Yeah, and Bruce, if you're just tuning in, Bruce Sidlinger is here with us. We've covered a lot of ground. Get your thing, and then I want to get to this Gates thing and the Attorney General. Okay,
I want to explain as Elon's original superfan, because any of your listeners, if you Google Bloomberg and Sidlinger, you'll read an article where I promised
a kidney.
I promised him a kidney. I identified him as the one person that I would give up.
You wouldn't give me
my
a kidney?
Life. No. Well, I don't know. I don't think your potential is as great.
I'm offended, man.
But anyway, so let me just tell you.
I need new friends. Let me just tell
you the tragedy of your tax dollars being taken from you and squandered. What Elon, and it was obvious before Elon did it, but Elon's the guy that can make it happen. What everybody wants is. They want a little electric pod, a little rolling car that holds one or two people.
Okay.
That rolls up to you whenever you need it within seconds because they're just circulating. They don't park. They're just circulating.
Okay. Like the Jetsons type thing.
Right. And you get in it and there's nobody else in it. It's completely secured and takes you to where you want to go and then you get out. That's it. So that's entirely achievable. Elon's practically ready to ship those right now. It'd be like something less than a Model 3 that would be autonomous. I haven't done an autopilot intervention in months in my Tesla. The technology is there. Okay, let's think about that. That's what people want. What people don't want is light rail.
No, they don't.
What people don't want is subways.
No, that's like you have to.
Right.
You have to.
Right.
In New York
What
City.
people don't want is high-speed rail, because high-speed rail, by the time you deal with the security and the scheduling and stuff, your pod could just drive you to San Francisco while you snooze.
Exactly. Unless you're visiting, and we were back in Italy, and we took the high-speed train between two of the cities, and it was a cool trip. We had all the time in the world.
But even then, a pod would be also cool, right?
I don't know. I've never been in a pod.
Well, it's just a car that goes fast that you don't have to drive and can't crash.
Okay.
And one of the things, and here's the tragedy, I hate roundabouts so much, but I hate roundabouts for a specific reason. Besides just the fact that they're so leftist and they just annoy me, the reason I so vociferously against roundabouts, and each roundabout takes, 10 years and hundreds of thousands of dollars, each one of these stupid roundabouts, like the ones leaving Prescott to the north.
Between Camp Verde and Cottonwood.
Right. So here's what's so tragic about those roundabouts is once everybody is in autonomous cars, you don't want roundabouts. Roundabouts are a huge problem for autonomous cars. You can't drink your coffee while you're going fast around a roundabout. Well, the thing is, I've mentioned this on your show before, if you've been to a circus, to a rodeo where the Shriners ride the little cars, and they do the figure eight. Well, in a world of pods, the pods can be going 150 miles an hour. They will never have an accident, and when they come to an intersection, they can interleave by inches. But
people don't want a pod. People want the freedom of being able to go where they want. At least that's what I thought they used to
the pod is freedom. The pod is not. The pod is the moment you want to go.
Okay.
To where you want to go.
Can I drive it?
To where you want.
Can I drive it myself though?
No, but
see, that's people don't want that. That's where I think this stuff fails.
Remember, I'm talking about pods in lieu of
like a
high-speed
subway?
rail, light rail, subway.
Well, then
buses especially.
Okay,
I'm not talking about it in lieu of you being able to drive, because the pods can just take the carpool lane or whatever.
Okay, then why are people still stuck on the buses and things like that?
Because we're always fighting the last war.
Yeah, we live in a smaller city in Flagstaff, right? Yeah. And I mean, what is it? Is there 100,000 people in the whole area? And there's more buses. There's buses everywhere. And but
no matter how many buses there are, you'll still hate them. They'll still take too long.
But then when you get the bus, it's like, oh, we got to get these diesel buses. We got to get these diesel buses. And then 10 years, 20 years later, they're like, oh, these diesel buses, here's what they said. So this was NAU that got the one of three universities nationwide received about $1 million for 2 new battery buses to replace 2 diesel transit buses from 2008. And the grant, and that only covers, Bruce, 45% of the cost of replacing it. So this is a $2 million+ venture to get these happy battery buses and then put out of service the 2 diesel buses. Okay, you get that. They say that transitioning from diesel to electric buses is not just a step towards sustainability, it's a leap into a cleaner, more efficient future for NAU. Embracing electric mobility means investing in our community's health and the planet's well-being, paving the way for a greener tomorrow. These people can't be this dumb, Bruce, to be quite frank, because you're still building this big bus, all these resources to create it, and you've just replaced the drivetrain with a internal combustion engine to a battery electric system. And instead of having fumes belch out, as they say, which give me a break already, you've got batteries that have to be, or the materials to make these batteries being mined all over the world in less than good conditions, by the way, not up to American standards as far as environmental safety.
Which incidentally,
what planet do these people live on?
Which incidentally, just as a side note, that's a justification for tariffs. I've always
for tariffs.
What I always say about tariffs is, a university economist will tell you that tariffs are bad because in their very narrow field, they want to optimize. They want to optimize to maximum efficiency for like buying a pair of shoes. And they'll say, "Where's the cheapest place we can build a pair of shoes? How much would it cost to ship it on a boat?" And so forth. But there are a couple of easy ways to refute this, because right now the leftists is, they gave up on the climate change and they're giving up on the transgender, now their hobby horse is tariffs, like how tariffs are going to destroy everything. Well, first of all, tariffs are not going to be very significant one way or the other, but the 2 easy counter arguments, if you want to argue against tariffs, would be, first of all, from a strategic national sovereignty standpoint, you have to be able to build during wartime. And so we can't have our industry elsewhere. We got
the chips, like they're bringing those factories.
We've got to be able to do everything internally. The second thing is, theoretically, the reason that we have all these immigrants is if you set aside the fact that they were expected to be we're going to be likely Democratic voters.
You mean the illegal aliens?
Illegal aliens. The reason that we have all the illegal aliens is because we're so kind that we want all the people of the world to experience American levels of healthcare and so forth.
The American dream.
Right. But if you don't have tariffs, if you have open free trade globally, really unrestricted, you're hiring prison slave labor like the Uyghurs in China. You're like what people are going through to give you your shoes is horrible. So there are three. Let
me catch it. Let me expand on that, because I've seen these people come and protest or support things in America and in Arizona specifically, the high minimum wage. We're in Flagstaff right now, one of the highest minimum wages in the nation. What is it, over $18 an hour now?
Yep.
Right? And then they complain about the high costs. So then what do? They run out, they go on to Amazon, they go down to Walmart, whatever, and they want to buy cheap goods. So what are you doing? You're buying stuff from China where they're, like you said, practically under slave wage conditions. So, it just doesn't make sense. So wouldn't they be mad about that versus a tariff that would hopefully level that playing field?
Yeah. So here's just the three quick points. The next time you're in a coffee shop and you're arguing with somebody about tariffs, you say first of all,
avoid that, but
first of all, it has not, the first argument is, regardless of how much they cost us, it doesn't matter, because national security is paramount. We have to be able to build whatever we need to fight a war. Secondly, tariffs are necessary because otherwise U.S. companies that provide good working conditions lose that industry to countries that will use slave labor. The third reason is, let's say that you get past the reasons 1 and 2, and now you want to enjoy your cheap shoes because you closed the local shoe factory and get it from China.
Yeah.
The third reason is you've now got yet another unemployed American, which will still cost society just as much as if he was employed. He still needs housing, he still needs food, he still needs healthcare, because we've got a comprehensive safety net. So what good is it to say, hey, instead of $18 in Flagstaff, we can get this done for $3 an hour in China? Well, theoretically you save $15, except that then that Flagstaff person who lost their job at the shoe factory is going to go to the Department of Equity, whatever they call that, a Department of the welfare office, welfare building.
It might be the Department of Equity now.
DEQ. No, that's environmental quality. Anyway, they'll go to that welfare office and they'll say, hey, I'm not a
economic security.
Economic security. We don't have. They're going to say we don't have second class citizens here, so I need the same $18 that I would have gotten, that I got before I got laid off from the shoe factory. I need that for free now because I shouldn't. Yeah, and so the point is, tariffs make entirely make sense.
They just have to oppose Trump on something,
right? And then there's a fourth point that's a little harder to make because you can't prove it. The 3 points I gave you are demonstrable. The fourth point is, and obviously Trump can't say it out loud, is tariffs are a threat. You threaten them. You don't really.
You can get into an economic warfare situation.
Right. What Trump needs for the American people to give him the authority to go to China, go to Mexico and say, hey, guess what? 200%, 300% tariffs. Well, at that point, Mexico says, you know what? We'll take the immigrants back. We'll do, what do they call that when they don't come over? Remember the remain in Mexico.
Right. Remain
People
in Mexico,
say, why would Mexico do remain in Mexico? Well, tariffs. Yeah. The threat of tariffs.
Well, let's see what happens.
Right?
And I hope that Elon Musk can be that big voice in Trump's
the last
ear.
thing I want to say about the buses.
Yeah, I got more on this. This is so ridiculous.
You said with the buses that it was one of 3 grants.
One of 3 grants,
right, in the nation.
Yeah. And I think I know where you're going, but go ahead.
This is what's ridiculous about central planning.
Yeah.
Politicians, not only are they just generally not going to be the smartest people at this. A politician is optimized for campaigning.
Yeah.
That's why they're there. They're not there because they know how to run a big enterprise.
Yeah.
Well, even the smartest person in the world can't do central planning, but Elon probably is the smartest person in the world.
But we don't want any one person doing central planning.
Right. But Elon, when he's planning his own stuff, he can operate at scale. Like he came in and said, okay, GM made 400 EVs. I'm going to make an EV. I'll make an EV for everybody in America if they want it. I'll scale up. I'll do robotic factories. I'll stamp out a chassis in one piece. Well, what's ridiculous about the idea of central planning is they actually will say as an accomplishment that the bureaucracy turned its gears, and now we're going to have 3 universities out of all the universities. We're going to have 3 universities, and one university is going, as an example, one university will get 2 buses, and we're only contributing 45% to the 2 buses.
Yeah.
I mean, it solves nothing. And furthermore, we've set a time bomb. We've set a fiscal time bomb for that university, because you can keep if a university doesn't get alumni contributions or whatever, they can keep a diesel bus running for 30 years. An electric bus is going to expire on year 8, period.
Yeah. Well, here's what's even worse about this. If you believe all of this about, what they believe, that these buses are causing climate change and we've got to get them in place, why would you give the award, if there's only 3 in the nation, to a university sitting at 7,000 feet where there's virtually no pollution at all?
Right.
If you actually believe this stuff, wouldn't you say, no, we're going to pass on that because we think that this bus should go to LA or to Chicago or somewhere where they have a lot of pollution? It doesn't even make sense. Remember, just from it's one pot. It's one earth.
What everybody has to understand just is, first of all, the government will absorb all available money. But the other thing people have to understand is that they absorb all that money first, and then it's distributed to friends of the party.
Okay.
So Flagstaff,
NAU
must be a friend of the party. Didn't Kamala come to NAU?
Yeah, they must have had friends.
Friend of the party.
I guess. So we got a dog visiting. We also have Owen. We'll get to Owen here in just a couple minutes. Right. Talk about flying and talk about planes and talk about pilots and things like that, because Bruce is a rated airline pilot.
Airline rated, not merely commercial.
Yeah, I get that wrong. Right. Let's real quick. I want to hit on a couple of today's items before we get to Owen. And we'll get to Gates and a couple other issues. Hang tight for that. Before I do that, though, I want to mention another one of our great sponsors here, and that's the Blind Brothers. If you're looking for great new blinds, shutters, or shades, check out the Blind Brothers. This is where Angela and I got great blinds from in our home in Flagstaff. They are excellent. I'm really happy with them. Oh, and they work great, right?
Yeah, they're great.
Good stuff. Plus, you're dealing with a company that they started off in central Arizona. Now they're central and northern Arizona. So if you're in that area, call the Blind Brothers. This is a good Christmas present idea as well. If you have blinds that are like from, I don't know, when like Reagan was in office, it might be time to move on. 928-634-2423. That's 928-634-2423. Or you can go online. They've got a lot of great monthly specials at theblindbrothers.com. That's theblindbrothers.com. Also, thank you to Glenn Least at WT Wealth Management. I got a great interview on the podcast with him, the impacts of Trump becoming president and what that may mean for your portfolio. Why don't you call Glenn Least? This is a good time to do year-end planning. How are things going to change? What's your time horizons? He wants to just sit down with you and kind of look everything over and give you a free consultation. Glenn Least of WT Wealth Management. He also works on, he has a woke mitigation portfolio review. So they look through your portfolio, make sure you don't have DEI and all this stuff.
Make sure you don't have Jaguar in there.
I'm going to ask him, because I got stuff with Glenn. I'm going to be like, do we have Jaguar? How do you say Jaguar?
Jaguar.
Which
is also new stupidity. It used to be Jaguar.
Yeah. Anyway, if you have a Jaguar, you might want to call Glenn. Because you might have some money too. Anyway, 928-225-2474. That's 928-225-2474. Glenn Least at WT Wealth Management. 928-225-2474. You just hang out there, and we'll get to you in just a couple minutes. Okay, so let's talk about Trump's picks. Matt Gaetz, a congressman from Florida, was selected by Trump to be America's next attorney general. He was getting kind of hammered from the very beginning, and apparently, first of all, just Gaetz has backed out and withdrawn his name from consideration. He had resigned from Congress, his seat in Congress, and he had a meeting with a couple senators. We got 54 now, Republicans.
Right. He couldn't get the numbers.
But as I've warned you, there is a lot of rhinos in there. Right. And I told you this was going to be a long road and that they are slimy little swamp creatures.
I did cover this on Facebook a few weeks. The minute that Trump said he was going to begin announcing nominees, I said, well, by tomorrow we'll start to get the rape accusations. We'll start to get and the rules should be, if it's 30 years ago and there was no police report, or however it was adjudicated, there has to be. It's like that ridiculous case that Letitia James brought against Trump. Ridiculous in a whole bunch of ways, including statue.
Some of Trump's Supreme Court picks when he was president. I can't remember one of them.
Everybody's going to get it.
It was during Kavanaugh during the Me Too. The Me Too movement.
He drank beer. He was a frat boy. He was in a fraternity, and so therefore disqualified. Right?
It was nuts. So yeah, he got okay.
So first of all, I knew they would go after all of them.
Yeah, of course.
And one of the things I put in my Facebook is I said we'll have to have a few sacrificial lambs, because the thing is,
he's the first.
Senatorial ego is that they can't just rubber stamp everybody. They've got to assert themselves.
Well, he had a meeting with some of them, and there's at least four of them.
He got walked around. He didn't have the
numbers.
There
was at least four of them. Didn't have the votes, and they were never coming on board. So now Trump has to pick and maybe he has. I haven't checked the news in a couple hours.
I did want to say one other thing, because on my Facebook, a leftist friend of mine, because I have half leftist friends and I read Washington Post and all this stuff every day. He came on.
Sorry.
So I put it's what I do for you, Jeff. It's what I do for the listening public.
Yeah.
So I posted a few days earlier. I had posted like coolest cabinet ever. Like, what a fun cabinet, right?
Yeah.
And so he comes on. And he says, well, I guess you're super proud of Matt Gaetz. And I wrote back and I said,
and you like Hitler?
Yeah, right.
Yeah, that was the next comment.
Well, and my response to him is, I said, look, I said, I'm not carrying water for any particular nominees, especially that one, because I'm a lot more interested in Elon and Vivek and also the Secretary of Defense nominee, stuff like that. But I said that with Donald J. Trump, it's not a cafeteria plan. You get all of it. Trump does Trump, and you get all of Trump. And so I said, it wouldn't even occur to me to attempt to micromanage from social media each one of his picks. What I want, so then I just waxed philosophical, because I did a radio show with you where I said 1969 was the end of all the good stuff.
Yeah.
I said, I'm a reactionary. I want to get back to 1969. Trump's the only shot we have of approaching something like that.
He's a cultural conservative.
And he's got to get whatever cabinet he wants. He's got to. I don't want him to have any excuse for not getting us back to 1969 as soon as possible.
Yeah,
like immediately.
Get it. So here's the picks as of right now. Like, who might be in the mix? I don't know this guy. Missouri Attorney General Andrew Bailey. I'm on Fox News.
See, this is your world, because this is the least interesting of the cabinet.
But I just think
it's.
I don't know. There's several out there, but the one that pops up to me that I like right away is Senator Mike Lee from Utah.
I don't know.
Constitutionalist. Yeah. And I think he would be good for this position, and they would probably they'll still dig up some kind of dirt.
Oh, of course,
but nothing's going to really stick, because he's been around a while. The only concern I get, and that's not the pick as of yet that I've seen, but that's the name going around. The only concern I get is Trump could be draining some good people from Congress for these positions.
That is a concern.
Sometimes these are shorter terms. How often do you see these people actually make it through the whole administration? Sometimes they do, sometimes they don't. Right. And then you've got to fill them with somebody. Gates is an interesting
And I really
scenario.
want Trump to consider himself a 2-year president. The last time he thought he had 4 years. He was learning where the light switches were.
You've got less
than 2
years.
And he squandered.
Yeah, because look at how these slimy Republicans, the rhinos, are already acting.
First of all, Dems are doing support scorched earth, which means he's going to have a whole bunch of stuff to undo on day one that's been done in the previous month.
And then, so much to do.
Then he's waiting for his nominees to be confirmed.
Yes.
And then of course everybody gets distracted by the spin up to the 2026 election.
Yeah, that's why you've got a year or less, 100 days, a year or less. Yeah, exactly. Right. So he knows that. Gates resigned from Congress, so this is interesting. And I don't know how legally this works out, but he also won the election for the next Congress, for the swearing in January, right?
Interesting.
So does he actually get to take that position back?
I think they were going to try to get him even as a Congress.
Yeah, then Marco Rubio is may get confirmed, will probably get confirmed for Secretary of State from Florida. So does the governor have the ability in Florida, DeSantis, to, like in Arizona, you can appoint, they appoint the senator in the vacant spot.
You can appoint, and then also you can do special elections, and it's about a 6 or 8 week lead time for those.
So we'll see what happens with that.
So Gates resigned in time to theoretically have a special election to replace him before Congress reconvened.
Yeah.
That was the idea of that early resignation.
Yeah, so we'll see what happens there. Let's see. We hit the Russia issue already. Just to recap on that, I mean, they got to get together. Biden needs to stop and need to wait for Trump to take office and actually and pull together a summit like Reagan did and get peace. Sue for peace.
Well,
negotiate.
That's right. To finish an earlier thought, I said that America needs to be that shining city in the hill.
Yeah.
America does not. When we win a war, we don't pillage what we won. We rebuild what we won. We rebuilt Japan.
The Marshall Plan and
So we are demonstrably the nice guys that when we win a war, it's not venal. It's not for self-interest.
Yeah.
Therefore, we can be trusted with massively more effective weapons than the rest of the world combined. And the advantage of that is you can go into Ukraine and Russia and you can knock those guys' heads together and say, stop it. Okay, you guys had your fun. You killed off all the kids.
It's sick there.
But we're done. Yeah. And you can say, and
it's our money. They're doing it on our money, man.
And you can go to Ukraine
and say, kidding me.
Right. You can go to Vladimir
Putin? Zelensky?
Right. Zelensky.
They're all Vladimir.
Zelensky and Putin. Anyway, you can go to Zelensky and say, listen, you're going to have to. You're going to leave this room with the deal because otherwise you don't get any more weapons and you'll fall to Russia. And meanwhile, you could go to Putin and say, look, we can make Russia not work. We have enough power to make Russia just not able to function.
Yeah, let's pull Owen in here in just a second. I do want to mention, though, Kim Dawson at Nova Home Loans. She did a great job on a refinance I did. It's about a year and a half, 2 years ago now, because she does refinances on investment properties. So if you have multifamily properties, things like that, she can help you out. But also, first-time home buyers, she's got a lot of great programs. Kim Dawson at Nova Home Loans. She can help you out, and I know it's been tough to get into a home. There's lots of great programs. Call Kim Dawson at Nova Home Loans. Mention the Jeff Forward Show and you get $250 off the lender's fee at closing. Also, they do home equity loans, by the way, off-grid properties, second homes, you name it. Kim Dawson at Nova Home Loans can help you out. 928-310-6458. That's 928-310-6458. Or go to novahomeloans.com/Kim Dawson. Legal stuff here. Kim Dawson, MLS 697-411, Nova Home Loans, MLS 3087, BK number 090242, Equal Housing Opportunity, subject to credit approval. Terms and conditions may apply. All right, Owen joins us because I wanted to switch gears. How you doing, Owen?
Good.
Good? Good.
Yeah.
Owen had his first single engine.
He's first officer Owen now.
Yeah, first officer Owen. Single engine flying experience with Bruce Sidlinger, who is airline rated. What is it again?
And don't forget it.
Did I get it right?
Airline transport.
Transport pilot.
Airline transport.
And a balloon guy.
And a helicopter.
You used to own a helicopter, didn't you?
And
did
glider.
You sell that?
Yeah.
You got rid of that? You don't sell anything either.
Here's why I sold it. I bought it.
It'd be cool if you sold it.
I bought it from MD Helicopters. And it was great. It was beautiful. And then 9/11 happened, and the federal government immediately, and I was unusual in that I bought a military type helicopter. I bought it all nice from MD Helicopters, but it's a military style helicopter.
Is that the one where they had the gun out the side kind of thing?
I didn't have a minigun, but that's the one that you can get a Dillon M134 for it.
Okay.
But anyway, since I had a high performance military style helicopter and the government instantly they had all that 9/11 money, a broker called me and offered me like double retail. And so
you had to take it.
And it felt patriotic. Yeah. So that that was my one exception to sell.
Okay. So anyway, he's got the experience anyway. Well, here's the thing is that there's so many fields that people can get into. And, we spent time over the years talking about how people need more hands-on experience and they need more mentors, apprenticeship programs. People have been kind of forced down the road of college as the only solution. And in aviation, that may be the only road you can take. I mean, but
you don't have to
you
have
don't have
college
to.
degree.
Okay, so talk about that. Well, first of all, tell us about your flying experience there, Owen.
Yeah, I thought it was really fun. Got to go up in what was it?
A diamond.
Yeah, a diamond.
Diamond.
It's called a super diamona, but nobody ever says that. But it's a diamond motor glider.
Because this is from what country?
Austria.
So it's a diamond motor glider. Okay.
Yeah, and we got to take off from the Flagstaff Airport and then fly around Mount Eldon and then return, basically.
Yeah. Did he let you fly?
No, but
No. Yeah.
it was still really fun.
Two-seater, and
It's two-seater, and it's a motor glider, but it's really a full-on airplane. It has a full instrument panel, all state-of-the-art. It just has longer wings. What makes it a motor glider is having much longer wings and the ability to stop the engine in flight if you want to,
and glide around.
and glide.
It's lighter.
No, it's not. It's not lighter.
It's not lighter. It's not like a sport.
Curious. No, it's not LSA. No, it's a real certified airplane because I'm a flight instructor and I have to have a commercial aircraft.
Okay. So this, Owen went around and I felt really safe because Bruce was like, I'm not taking him over Sedona. I want to have landing places all around. Right. And I mean, you felt.
I gave Owen the safer route, and then I did.
Well, then he's like, he comes back and he's like, how much do you value your life?
That's right. Because I wanted to take Jeff
Does
over
Angela
no
have
man's
life
land.
insurance?
Right.
So we headed south out of Flagstaff right over into Oak Creek Canyon, Sedona.
Right. We took 89A, which is a road where you really can't recover from an engine failure.
Yeah, I think you had a lot of places there. But I don't know.
I didn't notice any.
You didn't notice any? I was being optimistic. Right? Bruce was like, when I go on a long flight, I put a parachute on. I'm like, wow, we thought we were going to start doing loops or something. I did fly for a minute though. I was a little rough.
Well, you're a pilot.
Yeah, I'm a licensed pilot, but I'm way out of the game, and I'd never flown a stick. So it's always. It's just different.
That was the moment you discovered that I was a smooth pilot because you were thinking, it's so it was so absolutely smooth today, right? And then you took over, and it's like,
Bruce did this perfect 360.
Yeah.
What did you do?
Yeah, just so you could see the
so you could see and nice and smooth, and then he's like, here, you take it and do some turns, and I'm like. It was rough because it's been a while, but Bruce was right there. So.
I took somebody else on a ride a couple of days ago in Scottsdale, and they said, man, it's so smooth. What kind of plane is this? And I said, this is like complimenting a chef on his knives. I said, it's not the plane that makes it smooth.
Yeah.
Okay. Anyway.
Yeah. So anyway, he wants to go up more and do that. So I think it's a good thing. And I think this is something that young people could get into.
Yeah.
And you don't need college. You could just you can build the hours.
Airline pilot without college.
You build the hours, right?
Yes. I mean, it's ideally you go to Riddle. Because Riddle's a no-nonsense
and there's
college.
one in Prescott.
Right. It's perfect. I mean, it's if you're anywhere near Daytona or anywhere near Prescott, you should go to one of the two Embry-Riddles.
Yeah.
But it's terribly expensive, and you don't have to have a college degree to be an airline pilot.
Yeah. Okay. Well, something to pursue, I guess.
Yeah.
Rocketry, things like that. I'm like Owen's Beaker.
Yeah.
You remember Beaker from the Muppets? He was like the lab assistant, and I always get injured because Owen's like building this rocket or something. One time, yeah, burnt my hand. He's like, "Hey, hold this, light this, Dad."
And this is probably my main passion is generating pilots. This is why I became a teacher at Flagstaff High, and I've taught aerospace engineering. And several of those kids got aviation jobs. A couple of them went to the Air Force, and I mean, most of them went to college, and then it was tremendous. Basically, out of 64 kids, 64 were success stories.
Yeah.
I mean, I didn't hear of any ones that went off the rails.
Well, how do we get? And Owen, you can jump in anytime here. I know you don't do this much, but we're going to chat a little bit about just mentorships. And first of all, let me ask you this: with Trump being elected and kind of a shift in the country.
I know I'm so aggressive now. I thought I was never going to do new products again. Yeah. Now I'm totally aggressive.
Well, you're like amped up, and I think a lot of people recharge.
Back, baby.
And if there's only one way I can put this, and I talked about this the other day on the show, are we kind of wimpifying America? Are we getting to a point where because for a while the left tried, and they're still doing it, don't get me wrong, they've been blending the gender roles, if you want to go with that. And, they weren't even sure who was a boy and a girl and all that. All this stuff got confused. Kids are coming out confused. And I see the really young, the younger ones now kind of like pulling back and going, yeah, I want to do that outside, or I want to be like when I was a kid, it was Top Gun, and I want to be, a fighter pilot.
There's no question that the Pete Hegseth is going to be amazing for recruitment.
Secretary of State.
Right.
Defense.
Right. One of my favorite movies is Full Metal Jacket. Pete Hegseth is the next best thing to Animal Mother being Secretary of Defense.
What was the one with the drill instructor? Was that Full Metal?
Oh yeah, I
played the clip for that.
F. Lee Ermey.
Was it the Marines? I think. I can't remember which movie it was, but they had the drill instructor.
Right, he was amazing.
And I was playing that clip
amazing.
for Olivia.
Movie, that's the same movie that had Animal Mother with the big bandolier.
Okay. But my point being is we've gotten away from, first of all, we had this long period where if you don't go to college, you're an idiot, and you're never going to succeed. I think we're getting away from that. And now we have, so many kids that have.
All the smart people got 20 years to try all of their ideas and none of them worked out.
None of them worked. Are people catching on though? And I don't even know if do you guys even you're young, but do you guys talk about this? Is it like, hey, I don't want to be, I don't know what the words I'm looking for.
The kids. I'm not a totalitarian, but if I took the President for Life Sidlinger thing to the point of totalitarianism, I'd say, everybody has to drive a pickup truck without a bed liner and all the kids ride in the back.
We've done that, right?
Then there wouldn't be any more. That's what we went to.
Owen and I have spent hours laying in the mud with shotguns. Right. I sent you some pictures of our...
I grew up riding around the back of a Chevy Silverado.
I remember when I was in high school...
When they hit the brakes, I've slammed into the glass window so many times, into the metal bed so many times.
I remember when I was in high school, there's still people who had gun racks in the back of their truck.
Yeah.
And that wasn't that long ago. He goes to a school
I asked Rob that.
You have a lot of there's a lot of kids in your school.
I asked Rob, I said, why don't I see gun racks? I said, can I do a gun rack?
Yeah, not in the school anymore, right? But no, your age group, there's a lot of hunters.
Yeah, lots of people at my school hunt, and then some people, if you ask them, they just have hunted before.
Yeah.
Not
they've been exposed to it.
Yeah.
And I think we've just come out of a period where a lot of people just haven't been exposed to this. And let me put it another way. I think that I hope that more, manliness is coming back a little more.
Absolutely.
It's okay to have these different roles. And most women would agree with that too. And I think that our country has gone downhill because there hasn't been positive male role models in a lot of people's lives for a really long time.
I think any woman should adopt whatever philosophy works for her. But I would say that a lot of women have been kind of pushed into whatever wave it is, third wave feminism or something.
Yeah.
And I don't think that it's necessarily good for women because, first of all, a lot of men aren't willing to get married anymore because the courts have these doctrines like the tender years doctrine where the man is not going to get the kids, period, under 8, right? And that's an interesting thing. Look up tender years doctrine.
Okay.
But then also, it's Leave It to Beaver, which was real. I was there. I saw it. That was really America, right?
Yeah. You lived it. Yeah. It's not fiction. It wasn't just a TV show.
Right. That was a good life. That was a TV show based on reality. Everybody recognized that as the next street down the block. And so the point is, women should have the option to do that. Women should have the option to raise their own children
and not be looked down upon.
It should be looked on as a very respected.
Well, that's why I'm certain, and I saw somebody else came out with this too, and I know I talked about it weeks ago, and I said that the first woman president of this country, and there will be one, is not going to be a Kamala Harris or a Hillary Clinton because people look at those women and say, that's not mom, that's not grandma, that's just not the woman I'm going to support. That's not what I'm used to. It's probably going to come out of a conservative or Republican side of the aisle because there's a lot of women there. And they tried to paint those women as unintelligent, the Trump supporters, and you believe in this and that.
Mark Cuban said.
That's where it's going to come from.
Mark Cuban said that all the women in Trump's, all the Republican women were stupid and what it said, stupid and weak,
whatever. Or Obama was. Whatever they were, they say the same crap every election. Dismissive. But when Owen gets of age to vote for president, and maybe there's a woman running that's probably more conservative leaning, you're gonna say, that reminds me of mom.
Yeah, it's
or,
funny
or,
what you
or
said.
grandma
'cause
or whatever.
You just
Yeah.
said the first woman president's not going to be a Kamala. The first woman president, we've got 6 weeks left.
Okay, let me take that. Okay,
The first woman president might very well
hey,
be Kamala.
I had this
Kamala.
discussion with Angela. I said, this nuclear war thing, this is really scary. This is
But
scary
there's
what's going
also
on
this
with Russia.
possibility of an abdication.
And I look at Biden and I say, this guy's got to make a decision fast. If there's missiles being launched and maybe they're going over to Ukraine, but maybe something gets confused. So the question came up of, for the betterment of the country, do you have to put her in just to get by for 6 weeks? But she's not the first woman president. There's an asterisk there because you would have to fill it in just because she's got 6 weeks. Does that happen?
And so then Trump
probably
becomes
not.
48
Yeah,
instead of
it
47.
It screws up all the merchandise.
Right. But no, I would say I don't know if the betting markets are covering this, but I would say there's a non-zero chance that Kamala is president.
He's saying there's
before
a
Trump.
non-zero chance. That's good. So you're saying
Yeah.
there's a chance, like on Dumb and Dumber.
I
I mean, it's just you got to look at it.
Maybe
It's-
5% or 10%.
I don't know. I hope that, and I've got. Next week we're going to talk with Congressman-elect
Why wouldn't
Abe
they do it?
Hamaday.
They're blowing stuff up left and right in the
Exactly.
last 2 weeks. Why wouldn't
I've
he
got
do it?
Congressman-elect Abe Hamaday next week. We may have Eli Crane, but I'm also going to be really lazy next week, and I want to get out for Thanksgiving. That's one of my questions, and maybe I'll send them a message. What can we do to prevent these people from dragging us into World War III? I mean, he is the commander in chief. So it becomes really, like you said, it becomes a really hard timing factor.
We could have
to pull this back.
Remember a long time ago, the most regrettable thing I ever said, I think, was when I very first met you, and it was in a good times, and I said, I'm kind of sad we don't live in interesting times. And then times got way too interesting ever since then.
Yeah.
Well, yes, things could really go south in the next few weeks.
Yeah.
Really go south. And a combination of the political turmoil of Kamala being installed as president.
Yeah.
And taunting Putin, because Trump will
backing
get in,
him in a
Trump will
corner,
get
yeah.
in and he'll just say, look, we won't leave this room
We're
until
going to work
this is
this out.
settled.
Yeah, he's going to it's going to be like MMA
Trump can
type
say, I
thing.
can make it so bad for Ukraine or so bad for Russia that this is your chance to not have the bad.
Biden and Harris and this whole administration is just so bad, such losers. And
But
the fact that we
they
got
don't know how to negotiate.
I know. All right, Bruce, it's always fun.
So is Owen, you're gonna have to propose some services to me. I don't think you've got too much cash, but you're gonna propose services if you want more
because you're
flying.
also a certified
Yeah.
flight instructor.
Yes.
So
We'll see what. Well, I'm trying to think of how he could make my life amazing.
what could you do? I mean, what are your skill sets? And I think that young men and women need
This
to.
is how I learned to fly. When I learned to fly, the way you did is you went
Sweeping
to
the
the
floor?
airport and you volunteered to polish airplanes.
Polish the planes, whatever it needs
Because
to
they
be.
didn't have paint. They were silvery and you had to polish it.
Except Bruce would never let you polish his airplane.
Yeah.
You know that? Don't touch that.
Yeah, but I
Polish
can do
my weeds
anything
out of the
around.
ground.
Yeah, what are he has skills with a Z, skill sets.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
I could do anything around like your warehouse or anything, or
Well, nobody goes in my warehouse, but you can. There might be weeds.
I've been to your
well,
warehouse.
I meant like on the
I've been
outside.
to-
Oh, on the outside, yes.
I've been to Sidlinger. I've been in the heart of Sidlinger
Well,
Central
because you
Command.
saved my bacon.
Yeah,
the
I've
whole
been-
Orvitz family saved my bacon one night.
I know.
Because you
all
made room for the machines,
I
right?
know all the secrets of
Yeah.
Sidlinger Central Command.
You made room for the mill.
Yeah, that's
for
right.
Millicent.
That's right. Oh, but this is what young people need to do. And we do have to wrap it up. But have you been surprised over years at the amount of people that don't come to you for, hey, I know have a machine shop, and Bruce has a big machine shop that does all this wonderful. I have something here somewhere. Right. I'd have to find it. Have you been surprised over years at the amount of people that don't come to you young and say, hey, I can do this. I can sweep the floors. I can do this. Help me. I want to learn. Or has it been pretty?
I'm trying to count it up, and so far, 0 have done that.
And I got to tell you, me too.
They would rather spend. Here's what they do, and I've talked about this, I think, on one of your shows. They would rather spend, like Colorado School of Mines.
Yeah.
Pretty expensive school.
Yeah.
They would rather spend $250,000, have $250,000 of student debt to go and get a degree in manufacturing, which is really a degree in machining. Mm-hmm. Well, they have I've seen their machine remotely. I'm familiar with their machine. It's a very primitive machine that only costs about $20,000 and doesn't do much. You don't learn much. Well, what I said, and this literally came up with a parent. I have a parent that said, how could my son learn something useful? And I said, well, one scenario is go buy him a tiny shed somewhere that does have heavy power going to it, at least 220, ideally 480, and take that total budget from Colorado School of Mines and buy a 5-axis mill with all the tooling
and tinker.
And then you will learn so much more with skin in the game.
Yeah.
If it's your mill, you will learn so much more with skin in the game. The professors probably have never worked as a machinist. The students are not getting any kind of interesting machining, and they're spending. So it's ridiculous because people will. Colleges are good for some things. If you want to learn high energy physics, you have to go to college.
Yeah.
But if you want to learn machining, college is a ridiculous way to learn machining.
Well, yeah. If you want to learn how to be a tradesman, carpentry, finishing concrete, whatever it is, mechanic. There's so many people out there.
Mike Rowe is another important American.
Yeah, he is
not
a very
as important as
important
Elon
But there's so many entrepreneurs and people out there that are always like, if someone came to them and say, "Yeah, let's see what we can do," and let's see what your interests
are.
are.
They walk in with millennial entitlement and also litigious.
I'm not going to do that.
And also litigious,
I'm not going to do that.
Like 30 years ago, I quit hiring people because they become litigious.
Yeah, that's a problem too.
15 years ago, I quit hiring people because of their attitude.
The ding dongs that support the minimum wage laws,
right.
Don't realize that they're cutting people out because you should work for free in places because you aren't worth the money. And I'm not talking about your whole life. I'm not talking about indentured servants or slavery here. I'm talking, you want to learn how to run this board and do this show, for example.
If I took on an apprentice machinist, they are worth negative money for
exactly.
at least a year.
You're costing me
charity.
money. I worked, my stepdad had a plumbing company. I worked 2 years in that. I caused a lot of damage, man. But I know how to do most plumbing now.
So how crazy
I can get by on all that.
How crazy is it that the government says you can't get a penny less than $18 an hour, no matter how much of a liability you are to your employee.
It's ridiculous.
But it's perfectly fine to spend $250,000 on a school that's not even going to teach you very well and will lend you the money.
We need apprentice wages.
The money.
We need apprentice exceptions, and I hope we can get that.
Can you imagine a government that would say, you know what, it makes just as much sense to let Owen order a $250,000 machine and forgive that student loan debt as it does to forgive a student loan.
Yeah, like why can't you
can
forgive?
Truck,
yeah, right.
Or why can't he get a plumbing truck?
You can forgive hundreds of thousands of dollars of student loans that you probably can't get a job for. But hey, your plumbing truck. Yeah, exactly.
Right.
Exactly. That's what they should be looking at. That's the difference between the people that are coming in, people that are going out. It's just, is the system too big to make those changes? We'll see.
The key is we just need to hack the government down to 2%.
2% of GDP.
Right. 2% of GDP,
which is very small from what we have now.
Tariffs instead.
Absolutely. All right, Bruce, it's fun. I look forward to having you back on more throughout, especially coming up in 25.
Well, I feel like I'm not going to end up in the gulag now for at least 4 years, so that's very optimistic.
You got 4 years? I mean, a lot can happen in 4 years. 4 years before. Yeah. So good stuff. Owen, get scrubbing on something and flying. All right. And again, if you want to send any emails, I'd love to hear from you. talkwithjeff@icloud.com. That's talkwithjeff@icloud.com.
This is the Jeff Oravits Show.